Well, a good Friday to you. My name is Paul Fowler. I serve as our Lake Forest campus pastor here at Christ Church, and I'm glad that you're with us on this important day. So it's kind of interesting that we call it Good Friday, right? If you read the biblical account, it seems like it's actually a lot of bad things that are happening on this day. And if you've been around church for a while, you kind of know there's not really an exact reason why we call it Good Friday per se. It's kind of murky, the history behind that. Some people think it comes from the German, which is God's Friday, or maybe it's some derivative of Holy Friday, just kind of Old English, more germane, and let's just call it Good Friday. But whatever it may be, I think we could honestly call it similar to the children's book of the same name, Jesus and the Terrible, Awful, No Good, Very Bad Day. I'm going to kind of walk us through the biblical account here in Matthew chapter 27. I encourage you to take some time and read through this today as we kind of understand why we can think this is a Good Friday, even though by biblical accounts, it's the terrible, awful, no good, very bad day. So if you look at Matthew chapter 27, it starts off with the chief priests and the elders coming together to say, yes, we've arrested Jesus, Judas has betrayed him, and now we're going to hand him over to have him killed. It's not a good day for Jesus. What happens next is Judas, he realizes that now he is in part of this terrible thing that's being happened to an innocent man, he says, and he takes those 30 pieces of silver he was given, and he throws it back into the temple. And Judas goes on, it says here, and he hangs himself. For Judas, this was a very bad day. The chief priests and the elders, they pick up this money and they say, we want nothing to do with this blood money, the money that they gave him, and they buy a field for foreigners with it that they'll, disavow themselves of any complicity in this. It's a bad day. So what's interesting is now Jesus, he's handed over to Pilate and the Roman authorities here, and Pilate has this interesting problem that's going on. He doesn't understand why they want to crucify Jesus, why they want him killed. In fact, if you read the biblical account here, what happens is his wife sends this message to him and says, have nothing to do with that innocent man. I've been having terrible dreams all day. For Pilate and his wife, this is not a good day. So Pilate kind of comes up with this idea. He says, here's what we'll do. I'm going to bring out one of the worst people that we have here, this guy named Barabbas. He's an insurrectionist. He's a murderer, right? No one would want to free this guy. And so he'll give the people an opportunity. Do we free Jesus or do we free Barabbas? And so the crowd starts chanting that they want Jesus to be crucified. For Jesus, this is a very bad day. Pilate kind of washes his hands of the whole thing and he hands him over to the Roman soldiers who are going to flog him, beat him, spit on him. They mock him. They make fun of him. They take this crown of thorns and they jam it on his head, making fun of him. For Jesus, this is a terrible, no good day. What happens next is they're going to give this cross, what he's going to be killed on, right? And they hand it to this guy named Simon. We have no clue why Simon is there, but it's given to Simon. Imagine being Simon, having to carry the instrument that was going to kill somebody else. For Simon, this is not a good day. For Jesus, this is a terrible day. They take him up to the place where they're going to crucify him. They nail his hands and his feet, we know. But what happens here at the cross is the people start mocking him and making fun of him again while he's up there dying. The people are taking lots, seeing who's going to get his stuff. Imagine watching your final things being taken away and given to other people in a game while you're there dying. What a terrible day for Jesus. But it doesn't stop there. What happens next is Jesus cries out in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me? A terrible day where somehow in the Trinity, the Godhead, there's the separation that Jesus has. It's a terrible, awful day. And so finally, Jesus cries out in a loud voice, and Jesus dies. It's a terrible day. It doesn't stop there, though, in the story. What we find out next is that the curtain is torn in two. There's an earthquake that's happening here. There's people rising out of the tomb. It is chaos. It is darkness. It's craziness that's happening here. Pretty much for everybody around and in that place and time, this was a terrible, no good, awful day. And then we see at the end in verse 55 where Jesus' mother and other women that were around him, none of the disciples are mentioned, but they are around watching as Jesus dies. It's kind of a sad and somber thing, and it's interesting that we call it Good Friday. But I think there's something helpful for us as we think about this story and we think about maybe how we can see ourselves in this. When we see ourselves into the biblical account, I don't think I would say that we are Judas, we're the betrayers. I don't think we're like the chief priests and elders, those that are the ones trying to have Jesus killed. We're not like the disciples who have scattered or his family watching around. If I had to pick anybody in this story that I think we easily see ourselves in, it would have to be Barabbas. The murderer and the insurrectionist, not that that's what I think about you. The murderer and the insurrectionist who has brought out someone who deserves to be punished for the things that they've done, but yet it's the innocent guy beside him that dies in his place. That's why we can call this a Good Friday. It's because Jesus dies for us on this day. The day that we deserved to be punished and have an eternity apart from God has been transformed into a day that is good for us. So before we rush to Easter Sunday when Jesus has overcome stuff and he's risen from the dead and he's done all these great things, let's celebrate the good things that he did for us on this day, that he died in our place. So I encourage you, take some time today, read through this account in Matthew chapter 7, reflect on what Jesus has done for you, that we, those that are guilty, are freed because the innocent person, Jesus, dies in our place.